Hello, my friends, zebras. Welcome to the show. This episode is all about being the teacher that you needed. Actually, that's what this whole podcast is about. There are things that I wish that I would have learned when I was 10, 15, 20 years old that I didn't learn until I was older, in my 30s, right? I didn't start lifelong learning until maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. So I think that there's a lot of things that, man, I really wish I would have known when I was a kid. And this podcast, the purpose of it is to pass along information to you at whatever age you're at, and hopefully pass information to you so you pass it on to others, and hopefully people younger than you, to educate them on important things that your parents didn't teach you, that schools didn't teach you. Not saying there's anything wrong with the fact that they didn't teach you these things. They didn't know any better. But the point of this podcast is for lifelong learning, for earlier growth in life. Okay, we have about 80,000 thoughts per day. And somewhere between 95 and 99% of those thoughts are old thoughts. We recycle the same stuff. That's why it's so hard to change. How do you change then? Get new thoughts into your brain. Learn from good people. Get new information in there. Use your imagination. Use your creativity. That's what this show is all about. Please, if you listen to the show, you like it, you enjoy it, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so it continues to grow. Two people that I've learned from are from Lifted Reiki, okay? Amanda Palmieri, who created Lifted Reiki, and Draper Brown. Now, Amanda has taken me through a couple of Reiki sessions now that have been very transformative to me. We'll get into that into the podcast episode, but they've really helped me to expand my peace, my inner peace, and helped me to expand my meditations to levels that I've been dreaming that they would get to. And they've been growing now. They've been getting better because of these Reiki practices. So Amanda is an instructor of Lifted's Reiki and a transformative process which leads people back to their original holistic states of health. Her titles as personal trainer, yoga instructor, Reiki master, crystal expert, and meditation lover allow her the insight to sculpt a wellness plan for an advanced evolution of mind, body, and spirit energy revitalization. That's beautiful. I love the way she puts that. So learn directly under her by attending any of the workshops or Reiki certifications that she hosts, and put this practical knowledge to work in your everyday life. Amanda's mission is to teach all who seek to heal, all who need new purpose, and to unite her community under the principle of living one's best life together. Now, speaking of together, Draper Brown is with Amanda. Now, he's Lifted's certified hypnotherapist and EFT practitioner. Experience Draper's enigmatic craft of hypnosis to guide us on a journey inward to take control of emotions, behaviors, and discomforts that can often seem to be in control of us. Draper's mission is to share a message of love and hope through filmmaking. Powerful stuff from these two. I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation. But first, listen, DDP yoga is something that's changed my life. I know Amanda's into yoga, and I've been into yoga now for several years. And DDP yoga is a different kind of yoga. Really, he doesn't even like to call it DDP yoga. Just call it DDPY, because it's taking yoga, combining it with strength training, combining it with, you're rebuilding your body. You're strengthening your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments, parts of your body that you don't use in normal weightlifting sessions, parts of your body that you don't use in normal yoga sessions. Trust me, I've transformed my body through DDP yoga. Diamond Dallas Page created it. It is a fantastic, fantastic program. If you get the app, by the way, which is amazing, the app allows you hundreds and hundreds of workouts, thousands of hours of workouts. And I don't even know how to really express fully how impactful DDP yoga is. Just try it for yourself. Check it out. If you're into yoga, especially if you're a guy, listen, and you've never tried yoga, you need to try DDPY. It's not what you expect. It's not what you're thinking, and it might actually help you loosen up. It might help you calm down. It might help you relax, and it might help you strengthen, lengthen, and stretch out that body that needs stretch. If you lift weights, listen, you need yoga in your life. You can't just tighten up all the time. You've got to release sometimes as well. DDPY, ddpyoga.com. Check it out. And let's get into this episode. Let's do this thing.
This is Rob Z Radio.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the show. As always, very happy to have you here. And as always, the show is all about being the teacher that you needed. That's what I like to base this podcast around, because I think there's lots of things we learned too late in our lives. We could have learned much earlier. And today I have Amanda Palmieri with me here from Lifted Reiki, and I also have Draper Brown here. Draper, what is, we didn't go over beforehand, your position or your, what kind of title you as?
Well, I'm the hypnotherapist for Lifted Reiki.
Okay, for Lifted Reiki. Awesome. And so I guess just to start this out, a little bit of a background. I've done Reiki now twice with Amanda. I've done hypnotherapy once with you, Draper. And I wanted to have you guys in because I think there's some really cool things we can share on a local level, on a national level, on a worldwide level that will really benefit people. So to start this out, what is something that you wish you would have learned when you were 10 or 15 years old that you just recently learned and you'd like to share with the audience? Who wants to start?
Well, Reiki.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's invaluable to know how to manage and release stress. I mean, I think that's like the number one thing that people can benefit from in society, right? It's better techniques. But really, I would ultimately have to say that just recognizing that, the universe has got my back, you know what I mean? And I'm really not in charge of all these things that are going on, and because that caused me a lot of discontent, you know what I mean, and about myself and about the world and the way I viewed things. So having sort of come into that idea a while back, years ago, it's been a game changer. Like, it changed absolutely everything for me, and everything always goes back to that. So I would say if I had to, say that to my younger self, or even thinking about it in terms of what I could say to kids that are younger, like my son, or anyone in growing up, would be to, just do the best that you can. Stay right in the middle path. Away from this wrong and right bullshit, this judgmental, stereotypical perspective that is so heavily embedded in society, and and to just realize that we're not in charge, that we're just little pawns in the game. That's it.
That's powerful.
It's very freeing. That's what it's very, very freeing.
And I think that when you're young and you hear that, because I've tried, my son's 4, and I've tried to give him some of that. It's not going to sink in right away,
sure.
Right? It's going to be something like you got to hear that many times over and over. But the younger you hear it, the more like it's in your head. And as you hear it later on in life, it's going to make a whole lot more sense.
Right. And like we were talking about, it's something that needs to be experienced. You know what I mean? So if you can push somebody any which way into having an experience like that, that's what needs to happen for them to understand that on a very deep level.
Yeah, and whenever they have the experience, they're prepared for it, right? They know what they're getting themselves into instead of being totally just to have the experience and not realize the significance of it, I guess. It would not be beneficial to have it without the understanding behind it.
Well, and the funny thing about that is it's guaranteed to happen again if you don't get it,
Yeah.
So in a way, it's still, it's not good or it's not bad. It's just when you get it, you get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. It seems like you can't get it, and it'll continue to happen again until you actually take that idea and start filtering your experiences through it. Then and only then can you actually have the experience that'll teach you from there on out. It's so yeah.
Absolutely. So Draper, what's yours? Something that you wish you would have learned many, many years ago that just recently you picked up on?
That the only limitations that we have are the ones we believe we have, and that's it. And that's the only reason we have them, because we believe we have them. That, I would say that's pretty much it. I mean, just I grew up doing construction and carpentry. Never really liked it. I never liked what I did, and in the last few years or so, I've loved what I do. And it's beyond anything I thought would have been possible for me at that time, and I couldn't do that because I believed it was impossible.
Right.
And then once that idea was kind of stripped away, then life got really good really fast. I'm pretty sure that would happen for anybody who that happens to.
Yeah, when you finally realize that thing that you see other people doing it and you think, man, that would be amazing to do, but that's not for me. It's not meant for me, or for whatever reason, just because of the stories you tell yourself or the stories you were told from other people for many
Exactly.
years.
Yeah.
What's that like for both of you? I guess that's a great question to start this thing off with, because living in a world of Reiki and a world of hypnosis, those are things that when you're young, nobody ever says, hey, be a Reiki teacher. I don't think that's like something that parents push you towards. So what was that journey like for the two of you? And you can go in as depth as you'd like, or not as in depth as you'd like. But I think that's a really important thing to hear, because me personally, even just talking about that in a little bit, just a little piece of it is so true that it's very freeing, because you've been telling yourself for that long that it's never going to happen, and you're jealous of the people who have it happen to them, and you watch them and like, I would love to be able to do what that person is doing, but for whatever reason you just have that story in your head that steers you in the other direction and doesn't take you there. So what's that journey been like for you, Amanda, getting to the point where you're at now?
It's been fun.
All right, see you guys.
Tease. Well, parts of it were really, really fun. Other parts were incredibly and insanely painful. I guess, again, never thought that this would be my mission in life, would be to help people. I was always someone who took from people. Do you know what I mean? The other side of the coin. What can I get? Sort of living behind this facade of a person that I wanted to be, and I lived my life through that scope, basically, and not really being very genuine most of my life. So, going back to that pain factor, I dabbled with drugs for a very long time, and going back to the fun factor, it was really fun for a long time. I mean, I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't. So I've had a lot of really unbelievable experiences because of that, like just beautiful things. I've traveled the country. I've met people from all over the place. I've experienced what true love and true friendship was, and also a bit about that universal guidance. Do you know what I mean? I always felt loved and protected by the universe, that wherever I was going to be cared for. But eventually the tables had turned on me, and the more pain I started experiencing on a very unconscious level, the harder the drugs I started to do. The more of life that I was trying to block out, the more I was trying to stay in a different reality, basically, right? And it becomes harder and harder to do that. You know what I mean? You have to go to more extremes to stay in a state of this inebriated sort of zombified existence. So, for me, really what happened was my daughter, she had cancer ever since she was 4, and she went through a 3-year period where she was really, really sick. She got a little better, she got sicker, she got a little better. And eventually she passed away from cancer. And it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. You know what I mean? Mentally, I, as anybody probably would, went fucking berserk, and having that drug crutch to fall upon, it was like, these two metals were grinding together, and sparks were just, flying off from that. And so for a couple of years after that happened, some of the most dark times fell upon me, and throughout a good period of that, I had tried. I'm quoting in parentheses here, nobody can see me, but tried. I had very good intentions on getting sober, but I never could, because again, like we were saying, I never understood how deep that stuff went. I had this void inside that I was trying to fill, that I later found out that it's only a spiritual aspect could fill that, right? So years after that happened in her passing, I finally was able to get sober, and there was nothing that I had done really except experienced enough pain that it was time. And from that point, I was actually able to hear again. I was able to feel. I was able to experience. I started seeing how the source, the universe, was guiding me in all the right places I needed to be to experience what I needed to experience. And for the first time in my life, I felt like a real like hole, And so anyway, from that, pretty much immediately afterwards, years of drug use causes severe mental deficits sometimes in people. And so they recommended that I had get on some kind of medication. And, I had severe PTSD, flashbacks. My body was all just contorted sometimes when that would happen, and depression. And they suggested that I get on medication, and of course, being, thinking that I still was kind of running the show, I fought it for a little bit, but I eventually caved because I thought it could be beneficial. And so, I was on medication for a while, for probably about 9 months total. But in the midst of that, I started to question and wonder, what else is there to life? Is this just it? Do we just work? Do we just, because I had that prior experience of really tasting what life tasted like. And I wanted that again. And also I began to question, can I do anything to contribute to my well-being? Because I don't want to be on this medication forever. So I started to meditate. I had this thing that I would do every morning. I would read this line from this book that pretty much centered the way my day went. And
what book was that? What was the line?
It was actually Alcoholics Anonymous book.
Oh, okay.
And it was like a page or two that talked about how we begin our day. We center ourselves. We ask ourselves, what is it that God wants us to do today? And we steer from selfish, dishonest, and fearful behavior, because that's what gets us trapped up. Mm-hmm. So I read that every morning for a while, and it kind of inspired me to take some quiet time and start to meditate. And so that's what I did. So I started with meditation, and then I began to exercise, and I realized how good that made me feel. It was almost like this aggression valve that I had released.
Yeah.
And then I started to eat better, because I realized that watching my daughter suffer as she did, that part of that was that there was something that I could do to contribute to my health. And I think for everybody everywhere, there is something that we could do. We can take a little bit better care of ourselves if, the universe will allow, and if we feel compelled to do that at that point in time. So it was part that I didn't really want to see too much more of that suffering go on in myself and in other people if I was blessed with the opportunity to do something about it. So very shortly afterwards, someone asked me if I wanted to learn how to do Reiki, and I had no idea what it was, But I remember when I had my first Reiki session done by this woman.
How long ago was this?
5 years.
Okay.
So I went into a trance-like state, and I started imagining all these crazy things like forests and unicorns, and I just kind of rolled with it, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know that was going to happen. And I remember for a moment there, I kind of came out of that and realized, oh my God, this is what it actually feels like to relax. I don't think I went 28 years up until that point realizing what it actually felt like to completely relax. So that was on the repertoire of things that I wanted to do. And when I learned it, I did. I practiced all the time, and I immediately started working on people because I had this internal mission because of what I had experienced in life, that I didn't want to see people suffer anymore if they didn't need to, and suffer at such a deep level. And for them to also realize that when they put in the work to work on this stuff, to really tap in, that experience is priceless. You can't give that to another person. That they have to have that for themselves, because it builds confidence and character and strengthens their spiritual connection with whoever it is they believe in. So, throughout the years, I've had a really powerful journey with Reiki. It's pretty much, I can attest to one of the factors of it, plus other things, has really molded my entire life, pushed me to do things exactly like you guys were just talking about. It's like believing that I could be something other than what I was currently doing. I felt like I was being pushed in directions like, do this, do this, do this. And I couldn't believe that I was doing it. I couldn't believe that I was capable of it, and that was a passion of mine even, because years of, and I'm not saying just drug use, but I think people have no idea what their passions and their goals and desires are. They just mindlessly move along. And that is another really powerful thing to tap into, is what are these things that I feel passionate about? What is my life experience? Because these are my gifts that I have to give to the world. And so it's been a journey. And I think now I'm at the point where, I recognize that people come to me and we're on this same path. We're doing this together. We're light to light, soul to soul. And we're all just trying to get there. We're all just trying to have that freedom of mind, body, and spirit, and to that state of, enlightenment ultimately. I think maybe people aren't aware that that's really what they're after, but there's a part of them that's screaming that.
Yeah. Well, anytime you want anything, if you desire vacations or a new car or whatever it is, I mean, that is just trying to achieve that level of
excitement. Yeah.
I don't even want to use the word happiness, that level of satisfaction, that level of just awareness of feeling okay with everything that's going on. You think those things are going to bring you that feeling of being okay, and you just feel good. You feel fulfilled, I guess is the right word.
Right.
But you try to tap into all these other things or get these like physical things that don't actually make that happen. You were saying about the relaxation part of it, and I think that's really, I've only done it, well, this is like the third time. Right before this podcast we did a Reiki session, and I can't really say that I've felt that relaxed. Like you said, like you never felt like you'd been actually relaxed before. I honestly feel the same way too.
Yeah.
It's a different level of relaxation.
It is.
You can tell there's something there that it drops you down a few levels of like, I can be relaxed, but your mind's still working and you're still kind of, I don't know. There's still something like a little bit tense in there. At least this is how I've always felt. But whenever you get deep into, and this is what happened to me last time we first did Reiki, that I went and meditated that night, and I had the deepest meditation I had ever had. And I had actually, I'm always trying to, my desire is to be at that spot where I'm just observing my thoughts and I'm not engaging. So I ended up in that place for a solid couple of minutes when I was meditating after our last session, and I was kind of blown away by it. I was like, wow, I'm actually there. Now, as soon as I recognized that I was there, I kind of fell out of it a little bit, but it was, then I could easily kind of tap back into it. And that I can attest that's probably to the relaxation. It's probably to get into that spot of
Absolutely.
Being able to let those things, let your mind calm down. And that's the toughest thing in the entire world. It's so crazy how difficult it is. And you were saying also that I think is really interesting when you were talking about being on drugs and people would tell you things and talk to you and you couldn't hear them, right? You couldn't like hear what they were actually trying to say. You would only hear what your mind was telling you.
Right.
They were saying. And that's even if you're not on drugs, we do that, right? I mean, like everybody does that. We have our own perception of life, and you don't necessarily hear what somebody says. You just hear what you interpreted them saying or how you think they said it.
They call it cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, right.
Yeah.
So you are just, and when you can get to that place of consciousness where you can kind of hopefully let your thoughts, they pop in, they're going to come, but you can let them go and you can live in that place, which would just be a beautiful existence. Then you would actually be able to see people for who they are, situations for what they are, and actually experience what the world actually is instead of through your interpretations of your past experiences.
Cognitive dissonance is actually the natural byproduct of a human dichotomous perception of right and wrong. This is where it comes from.
Okay.
People can't really view themselves as wrong. Somehow, some way, even the most horrible person doing the most horrible thing will find some way to justify or rationalize their behavior. It'll be right to them. You know,
It has to be for them to do it.
Exactly. No one could ever intentionally do something wrong. Like, we just can't do it. We think that people are doing that, but they're really not. Somehow they think that they're right, even if they themselves would believe it to be terrible normally. This time there's a reason for it, and it makes sense to them. Yeah. So
that's like look, I guess the most extreme example is Hitler, right? I mean, he believed in what he was doing.
Right, exactly.
Fully believed in.
Yeah, you wouldn't convince him he was evil. He was doing the right thing. He was trying to save the world, man.
God's cause.
You know? And we all experience that, and it is all because we have a self-image that we have to keep up for ourselves. We have to look a certain way to ourselves for other people, and and there's all these unconscious drivers that motivate it, but it all revolves around this idea of right and wrong. And if a person can sort of release that, or let go of that, or look beyond that, or however you want to say it, and just realize that things just are, they just are, then suddenly I can actually look at the terrible, what I would normally consider to be the terrible sides of myself, and look at them objectively and honestly. But before that happens, before a person reaches that state, they have to lie to themselves about it. The stress from it would be too much to bear.
Yeah.
So their memory actually automatically creates false memories. And, there's all kinds of studies that have proven this,
Your memories aren't the most reliable things in the entire world.
No.
You form them to what you need them to be.
Exactly. Yeah. You watch your buddy get in a fight with somebody when you're a kid or whatever, teenager, and he loses, right? But then you talk about it later on, and you remember very specifically him winning that fight. We could all, and you're not lying. You just, that your memories actually change to make it a more attractive idea for you to deal with and cope with, and that's all that's kind of a blanket over the whole thing, but for the most part that is what it is. And but if it's not wrong for my buddy to lose a fight, well, then I don't have to. There's no foundation for cognitive dissonance to actually take root, or the cognitive dissonance doesn't take place, so my mind doesn't have to find cognitive consistency would actually be the proper way to say it, but whatever, so it's, if nothing was ever wrong, then I never needed to lie, so my mind never does that, and then I could see everything clearly. And since stress is only ever a byproduct of me believing something happened that's wrong, stress is also decreased at the same time. Stress and cognitive dissonance sort of run together. They're holding hands, hanging out, and they go to the same parties and stuff.
That's the whole reason. The reason for the cognitive dissonance is to reduce the stress for yourself, right? Because you could never bear with the truth. You couldn't live with that. I always go to George Costanza from Seinfeld because he said it's not a lie if you believe it's true. They were like doing a lie detector test, and he like, how do you beat the lie detector test? And it was, it's not a lie if you believe it. And that's, people live their life in that. And I think we all do to a certain extent, right? I mean, not saying that we want to, but our mind does that for us to help us cope with things.
Absolutely.
Sure. And that relaxed state that you reached, everything's okay then, man. Right?
Yeah.
So, exactly, yeah.
And that's where I've been getting lately, is because when we first talked, you said like try to find a mantra, try to find a word or something to go back to, and I go back to relax, just that word, and it's like the foundation of meditation. You find that thing that you can repeat to yourself, or it's just following your breath or whatever it might be, or it's yoga or whatever, but you get to that place, and that word or practice replaces all of those thoughts that are flying in constantly, and none of those thoughts that come in are going to really do you any good. They're going to effectively activate the cognitive dissonance at some point, right? Because as soon as you grab onto a thought, you start running a rabbit hole with it. You start going down with it. And I mean, how many people, three of us, I'm sure, do on a regular basis? We're caught in it daily, constantly, and you just forget. You have to remind yourself over and over again. Amanda, so I think that's an interesting question, because going through what you went through and coming back out of it, and as strong as you are now, and with where you're at right now, and you seem very at peace. I mean, I don't know you extremely well, but you seem like a very at peace person, and you seem to be very tapped into what you do and to the mindset that you like have yourself on. How do you keep yourself there on a daily basis? What is the practice like? Something practical somebody could use that, puts you back in that place at all times?
Well, I have a routine that I do. I would say find a routine and stick to it. Do you know what I mean? It's as if you're conditioning yourself for the rest of that time period until you get that next routine. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Also, it's practicing bringing out the inner teacher. That's the big part of meditation, is we tap in because we have the answers. We are the whatever it is that we are seeking. So we tap in to get that stuff, to recognize that it's important to do these things because, like we're talking about, I'm going to filter my day and everything else through that scope.
Yeah.
So, for me, every day I wake up and I run and I eat. No, I'm just kidding. No, I used to do that, but then I got more spiritual and I realized that it's not necessary to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. But, I'll take some time and I'll do a little bit of that practice that we've done together and go down into a level of myself where something pulls the strings, you know what I mean? And kind of, like the Wizard of Oz, conduct a couple of things behind the curtain, and I'm not really planning on how my day is going to go. I'm just setting the tone for how I want to find humor in the moments where I find myself getting upset because I'm, thinking that something should be different. And I want to find the significance in what's being shown to me that day. And also, it's taken a lot of work for me to get to this place, I'm not going to lie. But it's based off of that little simple foundation of that routine of that taking time for myself every day and just a willingness and a courage to see more truth. Do you know what I mean? To be exposed to more of that. And, and the other thing is it's incredibly enjoyable for me for what I do. So it's real easy to just do it. And I want to be as helpful as I possibly can to people. So it forces me to go back into that space to, to allow that energy to come in and work on myself because I got to be in good shape to work on other people.
Yeah.
So kind of feeding that idea all the time that, that's equally as important.
If you're a mess, you can't help anybody else.
It's real hard to, man. It's real. You can, but it's really hard to, because I'm filtering that stuff through different things, and and I'm trying to change people, and that's the thing. It's like I don't want to change anybody. I just want people to come as they are, and I want them to find through their experience how they can change. And I just let them be as fucked up as they are, as hurt as they are, as whatever. You cry or laugh and get angry. It's like, because I needed that. Going back to the topic, right? It's like that's all I ever wanted my entire life. I realized that through this whole process of self-healing with Reiki and this, this meditation stuff is going back to when I was younger. All I ever wanted was for somebody to just totally love and accept me exactly the way that I was. Stop trying to change me and make me somebody I wasn't. Even in that point in my life, it was like, I wasn't really doing anything all that awful. Like, sure, I was slacking off on school and, not coming home and smoking weed. But it's like, still in all, that's all I ever wanted, for somebody to recognize that, like, I'm still a person here and stop trying to change me and let me have my whatever, let me be. Yeah. And so I try to do that for other people because that's really all that you can do, is to just value them enough to do that. And then they can break free. They can break open of that. Right.
And it's so, two things that you said in there that like are really important is having kids. You don't realize it sometimes that you're doing it.
Exactly.
That's the part that's scary. And I can see, like, I have a 4-year-old and I can see like, oh crap, Robbie, you're doing stuff that you would not want done to you. Right. It's like, one of the things I've taken away that stuck with me is try to envision everybody else as you living another life. Like, you could be anybody under certain circumstances. You were born into their world, you would be like them. So you can't really say, oh, I would never do that. If you were put in those circumstances, you probably would do that. I mean, it's almost that simple. And also, there's this great book called Leadership and Self-Deception, which is it's a really bad name for the book because it sounds complicated and not interesting. But the whole basis of the book, and there's a second book called Anatomy of Peace, and they both same topic, same meaning. But the meaning is to see people as people instead of objects. And what we do so often is we just see people as objects that we need to control them so they do what we want them to do so that we're happy. And the whole book is just, in a very long-winded way about because this is funny because my mentor, his name's Ray, he's been on the podcast a couple of times. We did a personality test, and he gave me the results of the test.
Did you like it?
I loved it. It was great. Yeah, it was very like, the awareness level was very high, realizing like who I am. And he said something in there said something about me viewing people as objects, and I'm like, I don't do that. Like, I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. It's just something I personally enjoy. And he's like, yeah, but you might not. And he's like, he'll never like say yes or no to anything. He's like, maybe you should just check this book out. So I bought the book and I started reading. I'm like, oh wow, I look at people as objects, and I don't even know that I do it. Especially people closest to me. Like, I want them to act a certain way so that I'm okay. And I'm just, this was probably about a year ago, and it was just like this awakening of like, holy cow, I didn't know I treated people like that. I didn't know I was even doing that. And I think that's most parents, right? I mean, we talk about parents and they ruin their kids' lives because they're trying to make them do a certain thing, get into the right school or whatever it is, or take, baseball because they played baseball. Like, you're just trying to make them do stuff that'll make you happy and has nothing to do with the kid whatsoever.
Yeah, like you want to feel better about yourself.
Yeah, and you think like this thing make them do it, the kid's going to be happy, and they're going to be fulfilled because that's what you think would work. And it's wild. We do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think that it's a difficult balance, and who the hell knows the answer?
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
decide who the better parent was? I guess you'd have to build a time machine, go to the future, and then give them all happiness tests to see which one came out better, right? Like, how could we really know? And I've seen strong, good people come from run-down homes, abusive parents, and vice versa, and everything in between and around that. And and
you're right, man. Sometimes the most messed up people are the most interesting.
Yeah.
Right. They've gone through the most experiences.
They are.
Yeah.
So it is hard to say. Yeah.
But it seems a parent's job is to prepare their children for adulthood. Mm-hmm. And so if your punishments revolve around they should have a lesson, something that's actually teaching them something. And if that's the case, and it's loving and it's for the betterment, at least as far as the parent is concerned, then I think that you're doing a good job. I think that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, we do have to teach them. You can't just let them stay little kids forever, So, but if your punishment is more like, do as I say because I'm in charge, then you're probably just trying to make them make you happy. But if it's about their lesson and you're willing to go the extra mile, to put effort into that and take the time to actually make sure that they're learning from their discipline and things of that nature, then I don't know. I think it's that simple, generally speaking, right? Mm-hmm. That's just my take on it, though.
The one thing that's always driven me nuts was I just had a guy in the podcast, the last episode, who has this platform called Dad to Be. So it's all about like preparing yourself to be a good dad. And we were just saying about the statement, do as I say, not what I do. Like, this is the worst statement ever. Yeah. Because it's like,
it's terrible.
No one pays attention to it.
Your kids are watching you. They're like through osmosis learning how to live life. And you're saying, I don't do that stuff that I did. Do what I'm telling you to do right now. And that just doesn't work. No. It doesn't make any sense.
They can't even help themselves. Like, they can't.
No, and human beings, all human beings, have a natural propensity towards defiance. If we feel like someone's trying to control us, we immediately try to resist whatever authority that is. It's all of us, especially children. So, and I mean, there are far better ways to get cooperation from people. I mean, you see it in sales strategies and things like that, and those same people who will use those same strategies when they're trying to get money off of somebody will fail to do so when they're dealing with their children. Because
where it matters the most.
Where it matters the most, just because they feel justified in their tyranny, because I am the parent and I'm above you. And it's not like that. You're older, you've had more life experience, but you're not better than they are. And and if they get their way, eventually they're going to be just as big as you. You're going to be old and frail, and they're going to be able to, because I said so, Dad.
Do you really want that? Never talking to you again. Whatever it comes down to. But the funny thing is, man, I've realized this from having a kid is that I've learned so much from Max, because you having a little kid, reminds you of what it's like to be a kid. And I can remember, like, he brings back feelings for me of like, oh wow, I remember what it's like to be little and just to not care.
Yeah.
And just want to play. Like, I still just want to play all day long, really. I think that's what it comes back to, is like when I think about like what I want to do with my career, and of course like helping people is up there on the list, but also making sure that I'm having fun all the time would be a top goal.
Priority.
And that's all kids want to do, is just have fun. Like that's like Max just wants to play, and that's, who the hell doesn't just want to play? Like, even if you're especially if you're playing and doing something constructive at the same time, like, man, that's like the ultimate win-win. It's called like edutainment. Like, if you can educate somebody and entertainment at the same time, that's the best way to learn.
Yeah, it is.
Because you're enjoying the experience.
Yeah, I think Sesame Street were the first ones to figure that out.
Yeah.
But it has not been taken far enough. There's actually a school in California I was reading about called Out School.
Okay.
They do computer stuff, and I haven't looked that much into it, but it seems like that's what their aim is. They customize the classes towards the kids and their interests so that they'll have fun learning what it is that they're learning, and then the teachers are basically just mediators going around making sure that if they have problems with the computer or something like that. But it's
kind of like a Montessori
brilliant.
School, kind
sort
of
of
like
a
that
Montessori, but I mean, it seems like as far beyond the public education system as Montessori is, that's as far that's like just as far beyond in that direction. So I would have to look more into it, and I'm sure they're still under development. They're only a few years old or something, but it looks amazing.
That sounds interesting.
It looks like the future.
It's called the Out School?
Out School.
Okay.
Yeah, ALT School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, check it out. It's pretty fascinating.
You were saying about routines and how, like, sometimes, this is funny because, like, you dropped the running and you stopped doing the stuff you thought was going to work. I've experienced that too, because I had like this strict morning routine.
Strict, right?
And it was for me to be calm. Like, I had this routine.
Oh, you forced yourself to be calm?
I had this routine of strictness, so I woke up and was in a good mood. And it was so dumb looking at it. 'Cause now I've eliminated a bunch of it, but still kept the core things that I like.
Yeah.
But I was doing so much in the morning. And like, if Max would wake up early or something would interrupt me, I'd be pissed.
I know, I understand.
I'm
I'm trying to be calm here.
I'm trying to start my day right, and you guys are pissing me off. Like, the world's making me mad. It's so ridiculous.
Sorry you live here, but seriously, stay over there.
Right? Yeah. It's so, and it just happened yesterday. Actually, I'm still doing it, I guess, because Max woke up like 15 minutes early. I'm like, you're not supposed to wake up yet.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
This anger rises. I'm like, dude. That's the whole reason you're doing this, is to not be mad about that sort of stuff.
Go in the bathroom. That's the last place that I found that I could still get that routine is in the bathroom. Just close and lock the door, even if they're awake, because they'll think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want to bother you because they don't know what you're doing in there. And unless your kid's real little, because I remember Cameron used to follow me. He used to be right up my ass all the time. But still, you know, when he first wakes up in the morning, he's not like that. But yeah, I'd wake up in the morning. I'd actually wake up because I started going through this inspiration period, right? Where fitness became a big catalyst for me. It was kind of my life, right? And I also felt like I was living out my adrenaline rush that I was, seeking in other things.
Yeah.
And, of course, my goals of being strong and sexy, and you know what I mean? All that
you're
stuff.
moving one addiction for another, right? You're taking that one
Pretty
addiction
much,
for
man.
the high of a fitness addiction.
Pretty much, although one was a little bit healthier than the other
Sure,
one was.
Yes.
Definitely improvement.
Yeah, definitely improvement. So I went this a period of time where I'd listen to all this inspirational stuff, and they were all like, "You want it? You better wake up early and get it. You know, you better go to bed early and get it." And it was like, okay, I guess that's what I'm going to do. So I'd wake up at like 5 in the morning, and somehow, though, it's like everything really needed to happen that way at that time, because somehow I actually was able to get up. I wasn't super groggy. I was motivated enough to wake up that early in the morning to where I took 45 minutes for meditation. So I woke up at 5, meditated for 45 minutes, got dressed, went for a run for like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half outside. And I felt unbelievable by the time I got home and got ready for the day. But then, I don't know. I just stopped pushing. That was the thing.
Well, you probably got it all out of your system like that. You needed that for that period of time.
I did. And the push. it's like in my mind, it just so happened through all the practices and what I was doing, and the timing was right, that I stopped pushing myself so hard, because I felt like if I didn't do that, then nothing would get done. I always had to push, and I kind of just took a step back and let it flow a little bit. And I guess surrendered more to it is a better term to use. And now I don't really give a shit about running. As a matter of fact, I can't really breathe that good. I don't want to feel like I'm dying. And
I don't like running either.
Yeah, running sucks.
yeah, it really does. Yeah.
I used to love it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Now what happened? Now it hurts.
My
It's
feet
painful.
hurt. I know. It's
Well,
like,
getting back into it, man. Oh,
oh
my gosh,
God,
you're just
it
in
would
so
be
much
rough.
pain.
Yeah.
I know. I get winded walking up the steps. You know, I need to like take a breather once I hit the top.
Well, I used to. I mean, for a decade, I had lifted weights 5 or 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And I think I liked it for the most part. There's times when I really hated it and I wanted to quit doing it. But now, the past 3 years, I've done pretty much just strictly yoga, and it's been the best 3 years as far as fitness goes. I've felt the best, and I've felt the most satisfaction from the exercise than like all of the, because running's kind of, I equate running to like lifting. It's just like constantly pushing yourself.
Right.
You always got to keep getting better at it. And I like yoga because I'm just like, all right, I'm good.
It's
Yeah,
still a
right.
good workout.
Yeah,
It is. It's a good
it
workout.
really is,
Amazing
too.
workout. And plus you're working all these different muscles that you didn't know existed.
And you're moving energy. That's what
Yeah.
you're
Sometimes
basically
I've
doing.
actually come back from yoga feeling like I was like tripping.
Me
man.
too,
It's
yeah.
like, phew.
Yeah.
I never lifted weights and felt like I was tripping.
Well, I've gone into deep meditation after yoga. So at the end, like laying down after I'm done, like I'll go into super deep, like very easily deep meditation, because you've expended so much energy. You've got all that energy built up and kind of pushed out.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best. That's why yoga is tied in with meditation. I guess it just makes sense.
It does.
They
make
work
sense.
like one and the same.
Tai Chi, all Qigong, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it does those things. You know, what she was talking about the whole pushing thing. That's almost like taking the flight part of fear and pushing it over into more. Now I'm going to fight instead of running away.
Right.
And now you're just super aggressive rather than passive aggressive. But it's still the same energy that's motivating it, and you're still going to come with a high degree of stress.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And lifting seems to be more of an aggressive type of thing too. Not to say that there aren't people who can't do that, or that it's not for somebody, or I'm not trying to bash lifting or anything like that, because it's cool.
Because my name's lifted, so watch it.
Right. But you know, yoga puts you in that place where everything's okay. And, you know, this is the idea. It's like if everything's okay, then nothing's wrong. And you know what you were talking about in the morning when the dog wakes up or whatever. I remember one time where I was actually able to intentionally apply this just the idea, and that was it. And it was the water company came, and they started drilling right outside my house.
no.
And it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got up and I was mad as a hornet, you know. And I opened up the door, and normally I would have went out and started screaming at them. They probably wouldn't have heard me over the machines, but I would have started screaming at them.
You would have felt a little better getting
Yeah.
the screams out.
And then I would have went in and been all mad, and but instead I got up and I was like, okay, I'm just supposed to wake up this early, that's all, you know. So then I go in to brush my teeth, and I go to turn the water on. Nothing comes out of the faucet. Now, normally I would like rip the knobs off the sink, you know what I mean, and maybe smash the mirror or something like that. And instead of like, okay, everything's okay. This is fine. This is actually perfect. So what should I do now? And then I remember I have a bottle of water in the fridge. I brush my teeth with that. And then I end up sitting down and trying to write, but the drilling was too loud. Normally I would have went outside and started screaming again at these guys, maybe slashed their tires or something like that. And instead I just decided to leave. And then I can't remember what it was, but I'm never out of the house that early, up that early, and out doing stuff. And you know, I can't remember for the life of me. This was a few years ago when I first started doing it, but it was like the greatest day of my life. It ended up being, you could look back on it and say, man, thank God I got up that early, you know, and got out of the house that early. I wouldn't have otherwise. And I've noticed that anytime you ever do that with whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Anything that normally would agitate you, it always, you go with it. You know,
can invert it and flip it to
it's
where
okay. It's fine. It's perfect. Man, so glad the kid's screaming upstairs. Perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And you end up figuring something out that works with it. As long as you're at peace, even if it is going up and telling them to quiet down, you'll do it in a more peaceful way with less anger, right? You know?
Yeah.
I don't.
No, it's true. I think the interesting part is that whenever you do that, like there's constantly lessons throughout the day. Like there's always an opportunity for you to teach yourself a lesson and to practice like what you've been preaching in your mind or what you've been reading or paying attention to. It's like I've been like paying attention to this stuff so much. When am I going to start putting it into practice? Well, how about every second of
now?
every single day that you're alive? Yeah. It's crazy that you can do that, and that is actually what, that's the course. That's the path you should take. Is every single moment is a chance to do it and do it better than you did it the second before.
I like that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's like once that clicks, which every once in a while it clicks for me, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, I'm doing it. Like that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there could be a million different situations where you blow up, but then that one where you catch yourself.
And the more you do it, the easier it gets. The more you do it. The more you do it, the more you do it, and eventually it becomes your natural response.
Yeah.
Filtering system or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you said last time during Reiki, if you can find that place once, you can get there again.
Yeah.
So if you get there one time, you can always get back there.
Right.
You've tapped into it, so it is real. I think just making that realization, like, oh, this is a real place that I can live in.
Right.
You can actually be there.
Yeah. You are that place.
That's a huge part of it.
That's part of you. That's
Yeah. That's where like everybody should be, right?
Yeah.
If you could figure out how to.
If they want it.
Yeah. How to stay there.
Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful.
Yeah,
awesome conversation. Anything you guys want to throw in? If you want to plug Lifted Reiki at all at the end here, how can people find out more about what you do?
So get lifted.
Get lifted. You can check us out on Facebook at Lifted Reiki. We have a website that's lifted.world. My phone number, you can call me wherever you are, because I'd probably really like to talk if you're interested in whatever it is that we're talking about, is 570-299-1417. And that's about it.
Cool. What about you, Draper? How can they get in contact with you?
Call Amanda.
Be the secretary. I'm Draper's secretary.
And, we do meditations, hypnotherapy, custom meditations for people, teach people how to meditate better.
Yeah, that's
deeper.
a big part of what we do is we teach a lot of stuff. With the workshops that we do, we teach people how to do Reiki on all levels, and then go ahead, one-on-one Reiki stuff.
Yeah, the crystal workshops, which are actually really fun.
Oh, yeah.
She does live shows, which are spectacular, and they're only going to get better because she just keeps getting better every day. And past life regressions, I don't know if I said that already, but
and more to come.
Yeah, and all kinds of really cool stuff.
Do you guys teach the meditations and all that in the workshops? Like, do you combine those all together, or is that like a separate thing you guys do?
Specific workshop for the meditation.
Yeah. What are we calling it? Hyper meditation?
Hyper meditation.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Those two words don't seem to go together.
No, they really don't, do they? But it's just, people struggle with meditation. It's very difficult for people to quiet their minds down. But there are certain techniques that, basically, a person who has no experience meditating at all, you can put them into they can learn to meditate very deeply, very quickly, even access certain things that would seem almost impossible. It's sort of a self-hypnosis type of thing, where a person puts them, not like on YouTube when it says it's not really self-hypnosis.
Kind of like what we did?
It's that
we went through a hypnosis session.
We were there for like an hour, and we thought we were there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And it's basically like a post-hypnotic suggestion that allows a person to return to that depth of trance by just repeating a couple things and doing them over again. So, and then also enabling them to access certain things inside of them. Like, for instance, you can put people in a trance and actually give them anesthesia without actually putting any substances into them. They just numb their cells, stop bleeding, things of that nature. So you can access some serious physiological aspects of the body with the mind and with with that hyper meditation.
Hyper.
You can learn to do that.
When you guys are having
yourself.
that workshop, tell me about it. I want to be there for that.
We will.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
We will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could check most of them out on Facebook. Not pretty soon enough the website. We don't keep that updated as much as we should, but because that's Draper's job. And mine's Facebook, so mine's all over the place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll trade you.
Yeah, no, thank you. You're so good at what you do on that. No, thanks. So.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming in.
Yeah,
This
it was
an
a
awesome
pleasure.
conversation.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Wow, thank you guys for checking that out. I really enjoyed that conversation, and if you've never tried Reiki, I highly suggest checking out Reiki, seeing if it's right for you. And I know some people are weird about that sort of thing. Some people don't like to get into the spiritual side of life. Trust me, the relaxation, if you find the right person, the right Reiki master, trust me, it is a powerful, powerful source of relaxation, revitalization, and getting deeper into who you are. Thank you to Amanda. Thank you to Draper. They do amazing things. Look up Lifted Reiki on Facebook. Lifted Reiki on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. If you like what I'm doing, be the teacher you needed. Share this thing with other people. Share the messages. It's not just about me, right? It's about the people on here. It's about the lessons on here, the teachings. That's what it's all about. So I want to spread that knowledge wherever it can go, as far as it can go. That's amazing stuff. If you like the music on here, if you like the intros and outros, Jake Over produces all the music on this podcast. Look him up on Facebook, Jake Over from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. Be the teacher you needed. Be the leader, lifelong learner. That's what DDP is, DDP Yoga, DDPY. He is a lifelong learner. He is a leader, and he is 60 plus years old. He's lived many different lives, and right now he's changing lives. I'm telling you, you heard it before. I'll say it again, ddpyoga.com. Check it out. Fix up those 80,000 thoughts a day. Get some new thoughts in there and get rid of some old thoughts, all right? Thank you for listening. I love you very much. Thank you, Zebras, for checking out the show. And if you dig this, please hit me up on any social platform, Facebook or Instagram, Rob Z Radio, okay? Twitter is Rob Z Yo. You can find me on YouTube at Rob Z Show. Find me on one of those platforms. Message me. Let me know you're listening. Let me know what you like, what you don't like about the podcast. Give me some insight. I love feedback. I love constructive criticism. Notice I said constructive, not just criticism, all right? We'll talk to you next time. See ya.
This is Rob Z Radio.